Imagine this scenario. Your city is surrounded, supplies are running out, and the threat of an imminent attack looms over everyone. You look around and see exhausted faces, children crying from hunger, and a heavy silence blanketing the streets. How would you react? What would you do to protect your family, keep hope alive, and survive such an extreme situation? This was the fate of thousands of people throughout history. In different times and places, sieges weren't just military strategies. They were tests of resilience for those trapped within the walls. While armies waited for a city's collapse, those trapped inside faced unimaginable challenges: hunger, disease, and the constant struggle to survive. In this video, we'll dive into real stories of ordinary people who, even in the depths of despair, found creative and inspiring ways to endure. You'll discover how entire communities came together to overcome adversity and how some of the lessons from these episodes remain relevant today. If you've ever wondered how the human spirit endures the worst circumstances, stay with me. In this video, we'll explore ingenious strategies, emotional accounts, and lessons that still resonate in our reality. Get ready for a journey of courage and resilience that will change your perspective on what it means to persevere. Historical context. What were sieges? Sieges are among the oldest military tactics in history, used since the dawn of civilization. They involve completely isolating a city or fortress, cutting off supplies, and blocking escape routes. The goal? To force surrender without direct combat, wearing down the inhabitants until they had no choice but to capitulate. However, for the civilians trapped inside, the reality was brutal. Famous sieges shaped the course of history and revealed how war affected not just soldiers but also families, merchants, farmers, and even children. In 70 AD, the Siege of Jerusalem, carried out by the Roman Empire, devastated not only Jewish resistance but also everyday life within the walls. Accounts describe extreme food shortages, cannibalism, and the fall of one of antiquity's most important cities. Another notable example is the Siege of Constantinople in 1453, marking the end of the Byzantine Empire. The Ottomans surrounded the city with overwhelming force and employed advanced technology for the time, including massive cannons capable of breaking down walls that had protected the city for centuries. Desperate civilians tried to maintain normalcy, but each day brought new survival challenges. Fast forward to the Siege of Stalingrad during World War II, where this strategy remained just as cruel. Hunger ravaged the civilian population, who endured brutal winters while bombs destroyed their homes. Yet, the resilience of the city's residents played a crucial role in the Soviet resistance, altering the course of the war. These historical episodes show that sieges were not just military confrontations, but also tests of humanity. Men, women, and children inside the walls faced challenges that went beyond physical endurance. It required adaptability, creativity, and unity. In this video, we'll delve into the human aspects of these historical episodes, going beyond numbers and dates to understand how ordinary people became extraordinary in the midst of chaos. The next section will examine the daily hardships faced by civilians during sieges and how they profoundly impacted their lives. Challenges faced by civilians. Behind the walls of a besieged city, daily life quickly turned into a battle for survival. While enemy armies patiently waited outside, civilians faced challenges that tested the limits of human endurance. Hunger, disease, and psychological collapse were just a few of the adversities that marked these extreme situations. Hunger, a relentless enemy. When supplies ran out, hunger became the most unforgiving foe. Historical accounts are grim, people resorting to eating whatever they could find. During the siege of Leningrad in World War II, for example, the population consumed carpet glue, boiled leather, and, in extreme cases, even turned to cannibalism. The lack of nutrients weakened the population, leaving them vulnerable to disease and too weak to resist. In Jerusalem, the situation was just as dire. The historian Flavius Josephus described scenes of people hiding any remaining food and even refusing to share with their own family members. The fight for survival drove people to acts that would have been unthinkable under normal circumstances. Disease. the other great enemy. The lack of basic sanitation and medical care created ideal conditions for the spread of disease. Epidemics were common, with illnesses like typhoid fever and dysentery devastating populations already weakened by hunger. During the Siege of Vienna in 1529, contaminated water caused outbreaks that killed nearly as many civilians as the siege itself. With overcrowding within the walls and accumulating waste, unsanitary conditions became unbearable. The combination of hunger and disease led to alarmingly high mortality rates, especially among children and the elderly, who were the most vulnerable. Fear and trauma, psychological effects. Beyond physical challenges, the constant fear took a heavy toll on civilians. The threat of bombings, invasions, or executions loomed over everyone. The sound of catapults, explosions, or gunfire was enough to keep residents in a perpetual state of alert. The psychological trauma caused by these sieges often left survivors scarred for life. Diaries and letters from people who lived through famous sieges reveal the emotional impact of these experiences. During the siege of Stalingrad, for instance, a woman wrote in her diary about the deafening sound of bombs and how it made her feel powerless. "With every explosion, I feel like my soul is being ripped from my body," she wrote. Social disintegration. The breakdown of social structures was another common problem. The fight for scarce resources created distrust, and even close friends could turn into rivals in the search for food or safety. However, there are also inspiring accounts of communities that banded together to resist despair, sharing what they had and protecting the most vulnerable. Resistance in the face of despair. Despite the hardships, many communities found ways to confront these challenges. Even in the face of hunger, disease, and fear, there were those who managed to keep hope alive. Small acts of solidarity, like sharing a piece of bread or caring for orphan children, showed that humanity could endure even in the most terrible circumstances. These episodes of extreme difficulty offer valuable lessons about resilience and creativity in the face of adversity. In the next section, we'll explore how these survival strategies not only help people resist, but also shape stories of courage and innovation that continue to resonate today. Strategies for survival, creative solutions. Despite the extreme adversities faced during sieges, human creativity often emerged as an essential tool for survival. Deprived of basic resources and living in constant fear, civilians developed ingenious solutions to overcome the challenges that threatened their lives on a daily basis. Storage and rationing, planning as a weapon. From the start of a siege, the priority was to preserve available supplies. Entire communities quickly learned to ration food and water, stretching scarce resources to their limits. In Leningrad, families divided what little flour they had into tiny portions, even adding sawdust to bread to make it last longer. Every gram of food was accounted for to ensure survival for as long as possible. Additionally, the inhabitants of besieged cities devised makeshift storage methods. During the siege of Constantinople, for instance, people hid grains and seeds in secret compartments within their homes, keeping them out of sight from soldiers or potential thieves. These strategies not only ensured some family survival, but also became quiet symbols of resistance. Community support networks, strength and unity. Solidarity was another crucial tool. In many besieged cities, neighbors banded together to share tasks and resources. While some took care of children, others foraged for food or created distractions to ease the emotional burden of the siege. During the siege of Sarajevo in the 1990s, the local community organized collective kitchens, where scarce resources were pooled to feed the most vulnerable members of the population. These cooperative efforts helped sustain morale and reinforced bonds of trust, which were essential in such dire times. Utilizing the local environment, adaptation as a necessity. Exploring the surrounding environment to find solutions was a common practice. Civilians in rural areas near forests or rivers had the advantage of accessing plants, roots, and small animals. During the Siege of Vienna in 1529, groups ventured out at night to forage, risking capture or death, but ensuring that at least some of the population had food to survive. Even in urban settings, the environment was leveraged creatively. Rooftops became makeshift rainwater collection systems, while rubble from destroyed buildings was repurposed to fortify shelters or protect vulnerable entry points. This adaptability demonstrated how obstacles could be turned into opportunities with resourcefulness and determination. Emergency engineering. Innovation under pressure. The need to protect residents and ensure escape routes led to the creation of remarkable feats of improvised engineering. Secret tunnels were dug beneath many cities, allowing supplies to be smuggled in or civilians to be evacuated. During the Siege of Jerusalem, underground systems were discovered that connected homes to water sources outside the walls, ensuring that the city didn't succumb to thirst too quickly. In Leningrad, engineers adapted frozen transportation systems to create ice roads across Lake Ladoga, enabling trucks to deliver food and evacuate civilians. Known as the Road of Life, this daring innovation saved thousands of lives despite freezing temperatures and relentless bombings. Improvised solutions in daily life. Creativity also surfaced in small, everyday actions. Improvised candles were made from animal fat, while kitchen tools were repurposed to set simple but effective traps for catching rats or small birds. During the Siege of Stalingrad, families used scraps of metal or wood from destroyed buildings to heat the few remaining livable spaces. These solutions not only helped ensure survival, but also gave people a sense of control in an otherwise chaotic situation. Each act of ingenuity was a reminder that, even in the harshest conditions, the human spirit could find ways to endure. Enduring lessons in innovation. The strategies developed during sieges, often born out of desperation, hold valuable lessons for today. They show that even in the face of the greatest adversity, adaptability and cooperation can turn the impossible into the possible. Human ingenuity remains a powerful force that transcends obstacles and fosters hope where none seem to exist. In the next section, we'll explore how cultural and psychological factors played vital roles in maintaining morale and preserving identity during sieges, highlighting stories of emotional resilience and creative cultural expression. The human side, resilience and culture. Even when faced with hunger, disease, and fear, civilians under siege often found ways to preserve their humanity and cultural identity. During these harrowing times, survival wasn't just a physical battle. It was also a struggle to maintain mental and emotional strength. Music, faith, and acts of solidarity played crucial roles in this fight. Cultural expression. Creativity amid chaos. Creativity often became a response to despair. During the Siege of Sarajevo, for instance, local artists and musicians continued to create, even as bombs ravaged the city. The famed Sarajevo Orchestra performed in improvised shelters, offering brief moments of relief and hope to the city's inhabitants. In times of siege, songs, stories, and even theatrical performances became forms of cultural resistance. During the Siege of Leningrad, families and neighbors gathered to share stories of their past or compose poems celebrating their community's strength. These artistic expressions not only provided distraction from the grim reality, but also reinforced a collective identity, reminding people that they were more than mere victims. Faith as a pillar of hope. Spirituality often served as a source of strength during sieges. In Jerusalem, even under Roman siege, historical accounts describe secret religious ceremonies held in catacombs where people sought solace and divine protection. During the Siege of Stalingrad, Orthodox priests organized prayers and blessings in underground shelters, often risking their lives to offer spiritual comfort. For many, faith provided an anchor, a promise that there was something greater than the violence and destruction surrounding them. Solidarity and sacrifice. Strength through unity. Sieges frequently brought out both the best and the worst in people, but community solidarity was often a beacon of hope. Groups of neighbors formed support networks, sharing scarce resources and caring for one another. In many cases, the most vulnerable, children and the elderly, were protected by the collective effort of the community. In Leningrad, there are records of families opening their homes to strangers, sharing what little they had to ensure others survived. These acts of sacrifice demonstrated that even in the darkest times, altruism could prevail. Preserving identity, culture, faith, and solidarity helped civilians preserve their identity amid the chaos. By maintaining traditions, celebrating important dates, or simply caring for one another, people proved that their humanity could not be destroyed, even under siege. These emotional and cultural aspects remind us that survival is about more than just physical endurance. It's also a fight to hold on to what makes us human. In the next section, we'll examine the lasting legacies of these sieges, from societal changes to technological advancements, and how they continue to shape the modern world. Enduring impact, the legacies of sieges. Sieges were not just events marked by suffering and destruction. They left profound legacies that shaped societies, cultures, and technologies throughout history. The extreme challenges faced during these events gave rise to social changes, strategic innovations, and lessons in resilience that continue to inspire the modern world. Social and political changes. Sieges often altered the social and political landscape of the regions they affected. The fall of Constantinople in 1453, for instance, not only ended the Byzantine Empire, but also ushered in a new geopolitical era, with the Ottoman Empire asserting its dominance. Additionally, sieges frequently united communities around common goals. During the Siege of Stalingrad, the joint resistance of soldiers and civilians strengthened Soviet national identity, fostering pride and determination during World War II. These experiences of forced unity often left lasting marks on communities, transforming how they organized and cooperated after the conflict ended. Technological and strategic innovations. The need for innovation during sieges led to significant technological advancements, particularly in military architecture and engineering. The walls of Constantinople, designed to withstand even the most intense assaults, influenced the development of fortifications across Europe. Conversely, the Ottoman use of massive cannons to breach those walls marked the beginning of a new era in siege warfare, highlighting the transformative role of technology in military strategy. During the Siege of Leningrad, the construction of the Road of Life across Lake Ladoga demonstrated how engineering could be adapted to overcome extreme challenges. This ingenuity not only saved thousands of lives, but also laid the groundwork for future responses to crises, such as natural disasters, where creative problem-solving is vital. Lessons in resilience. Sieges taught enduring lessons about the limitless capacity of humans to adapt. Strategies developed by civilians, such as storing food, utilizing tunnels, or repurposing materials, continue to inform modern crisis management. The solidarity displayed during these historical events serves as an inspiring example of how collective effort can overcome even the direst circumstances. These legacies go beyond physical survival. They remind us that even in the darkest moments, creativity, unity, and determination can prevail. Sieges were not just battles between armies. They were battles between despair and the will to live. And in many cases, the will to live triumphed. Connection to the present. The lessons of historical sieges remain relevant today. In modern challenges such as pandemics, wars, and climate-related disasters, people continue to demonstrate resilience similar to those who endured sieges. Technologies developed under siege-like conditions still influence how we address global crises. In the next section, we'll explore how these lessons can be directly applied to our modern lives, reflecting on what it means to resist and thrive in the face of adversity. Reflection and connection to the present. The history of sieges offers more than tales of tragedy and resilience. It provides a wealth of lessons on adaptation and survival. These experiences still echo in the modern world, especially during collective crises that test the limits of our society. Practical applications of lessons from the past. The strategies devised during sieges highlight the power of creativity and cooperation. For instance, the methods of rainwater collection and food storage developed during the siege of Leningrad resonate strongly with today's emphasis on sustainability. Modern practices, such as urban rainwater harvesting systems and community gardens, find their roots in similar approaches from besieged cities. Likewise, the solidarity shown by communities during sieges serves as inspiration for recent crises, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Just as the inhabitants of besieged cities shared their limited resources, modern communities have banded together to support the most vulnerable, showcasing humanity's enduring ability to care for one another under pressure. Reflections on adaptation and resilience. The lives of those who endured sieges teach us that adaptability can mean the difference between survival and collapse. In today's world, crises such as natural disasters and geopolitical conflicts often place people in situations where improvisation and resilience are essential. The Siege of Sarajevo, for example, demonstrated how culture could serve as a form of resistance. Even amid relentless bombings, residents of the city found ways to preserve their cultural identity through music, art, and storytelling. This lesson is especially relevant in our current times, reminding us of the importance of nurturing our cultural roots even in moments of uncertainty. Parallels with modern crises. The challenges faced during historical sieges mirror many difficulties we encounter today. In natural disasters like hurricanes and earthquakes, entire communities are forced to improvise for survival, securing food, water, and shelter. Similarly, in war-torn regions or refugee camps, strategies reminiscent of those used in sieges, such as digging tunnels or sharing limited resources, continue to be essential. A contemporary example is the global refugee crisis. The use of secret escape routes or the pooling of resources among families to ensure survival mirrors the same ingenuity displayed in ancient sieges. These parallels underscore the enduring relevance of these historical lessons. What does this mean for us today? These stories also offer deeply personal insights. They prompt us to ask, how would we react in similar situations? Could we show the same strength and solidarity? In our own lives, whether facing personal hardships or societal challenges, the lessons of emotional resilience and courage from siege survivors can guide us. Moreover, tales of survival during sieges remind us that hope always persists, even when everything seems lost. During the siege of Stalingrad, for example, a simple act of sharing a piece of bread became a powerful symbol of humanity and compassion. These small gestures inspire us to practice empathy and solidarity in our daily lives. Preparing for the future. Looking at the history of sieges also helps us think about the future. How can we better prepare for inevitable crises? Embracing sustainable practices, fostering community networks, and valuing cultural and spiritual resilience are among the most important lessons we can adopt. History shows that humanity is incredibly resilient. By applying the lessons of the past to build a more prepared and united present, we honor the legacy of those who survived sieges and ensure a future where more people have the chance to thrive. In the next and final section, we'll conclude with an inspiring message, reinforcing the importance of these stories and encouraging reflection and action in your own life. A timeless lesson in humanity. The stories of historical sieges reveal much more than military strategies or devastating statistics. They show us what it truly means to be human, to fight for life, to hold on to hope, and above all, to find strength in unity and creativity. Each story of survival we've explored carries lessons that transcend time and continue to inspire our modern lives. The hardships faced by civilians during sieges were undeniably extreme, but it was within these adversities that humanity demonstrated its greatest qualities: adaptation, resilience, and compassion. Whether it was the collective solidarity of Leningrad or the cultural resistance of Sarajevo, these stories teach us that even the smallest acts can have a profound impact. So, what do these stories mean for us today? They remind us that no matter the crisis, whether a personal struggle or a global challenge, we can draw upon the same qualities that sustained these people: ingenuity, unity, and hope. Each time we lend a hand to a neighbor, devise innovative solutions to everyday problems, or maintain our faith during difficult times, we're putting these historical lessons into practice. Now I turn to you. Which of these stories resonated most with you? What lessons do you think you could apply to your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if these stories inspired you, don't forget to share this video so more people can learn about the power of human resilience. History isn't just a record of the past, it's a guide for the present and a beacon for the future. Never underestimate the power of the human spirit. It always finds a way to triumph, even in the most impossible conditions. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And remember, there is always strength and hope, even when it seems all is lost.